Another day in the NBA here, and this looks like an interesting one. We got a lot of guys ruled out, back-to-backs galore. We're still going to do the work that we always do here on the Splash Play channel. We're going to dig in and compare my projections to one of the industry leaders out there, our friends over at Stokastic. We'll see who the top plays are, who the top value plays are. We'll also go game by game. We'll check the ownership along the way, see where the leverage lies. We'll hop over to Stokastic, run a sim, see what the top ROI lineups are. I'll do a hand build. And by the end of this video, guys, you'll know all of the industry's must-plays along with my Splash Plays for today, February 20th, 2026. Let's get into it. I hope it was a good slate for you guys yesterday. I got most of my money back despite not feeling like I had anything even close to the nuts. So I feel like moral victory, if nothing else, on that one. But today's slate, really the big thing going into this one is that it's kind of a mess. We got some teams that are really expected to do weird things on back-to-backs, the Wizards in particular. Some guys ruled out, some guys not playing the fourth quarter yesterday. Tanking season is, again, going to be a topic of conversation pretty much every day we do these videos. But also, it's just a slate where there's nobody who is a top pay-up option of note, really. Jalen Johnson's on the thumbnail, but he's the only guy above 50 fantasy points in the data right now. So it doesn't look, like a normal slate here compared to what we're used to in NBA, but do the best we can. We'll dig into it, and hopefully things won't change massively by the time we get to lock. Shout out to you guys here. We got the free chat Friday going. Nice call yesterday, Sharif Cooper. There we go. He did come down in the data because that's just sort of how it goes, but I ended up playing a good amount of minutes alongside all the other crappy Wizards that we'll talk more about later. And shout out Sean here. Let's have a great one. Yes, indeed. I appreciate all you guys being here live. All right, let's get into the data. Top projected plays, starting with the man in the thumbnail, Jalen Johnson. 10-5 salary, going to back-to-back, but a pace-up spot going against Miami. Jalen Johnson, obviously a guy that we like a lot in these situations now for Atlanta, where we don't have Porzingis anymore, don't have Trae Young, and really for, how it looks for Jalen Johnson, he's kept all the workload. Those guys vacated, and now with new players coming in, none of them really taking the workload away. It's all flowing through Jalen Johnson's hands. I think when Kuminga comes in, that's going to change things a little bit, but for now, it's all Jalen Johnson. So for how it looks currently for Jalen Johnson, I'm at about a 50.9 projection. I also have to put in your Stokastic's data. 50.9 projection. Stokastic has him at 53.4. So for how it looks for Jalen Johnson, 62% owned by the field. I'm actually a little bit low in him, 43%. If you guys know, watching the streams, I would say I was one of the earliest people in the industry on Jalen Johnson, just in terms of playing him slate after slate, assuming that the breakout was going to come, and then really it kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. So he's always looked good in my data, and really in my data generally does favor guys. Most projections will, but in particular, my data gravitates towards guys that get a little bit of rebounds, a little bit of assists, a little bit of points as well, a little bit of every category is sort of the goal for fantasy production and how my projections look at things. Jalen Johnson does that. That said, the back-to-back facing Miami, not great things. Miami, too, one of the teams that's not in the back-to-back, so they should be fresh to go for this matchup. But that's really not the reason I'm low on Jalen Johnson. It's just that I'm about 2.5 fantasy points lower. Fields ownership seems a little bit aggressive at 62%. Got to imagine that number comes down as the day goes on. But for Jalen Johnson, always a play I'm not going to be mad at. Right now, he's in 40% of my lineups. If he made half of them, if he made 2/3 of them, I probably wouldn't kick him out. That's just what Jalen Johnson is as a player. But especially in a slate like this, where we just don't have big, spike ceiling options here. We got chat talking about all this stuff. Please ready the FanDuel analysis on Will Riley. Is he very cheap? I don't know what the deal is with Will Riley on there, but I have not looked at FanDuel pricing. I only pull in the projections built off the same data that I do for DraftKings. But all right, real fast. I'm curious. Will Riley, 4,700 and 18-point projection. This is why we don't talk FanDuel. What is so interesting about Will Riley? Who gives a shit? Well, open chat Friday's been a failure. Free chat Friday's been a failure. Tell me what I'm missing with Will Riley. I don't know. Anyway, we got Brandon Miller at number 2 for me. So this is one that I don't think is correct, really. But Stokastic hadn't updated for Grant Williams being out before the show, so it's kind of rolled with it. But Brandon Miller, one thing that jumps out, and actually I'll go to NBA Wowie real fast because it's noteworthy, and I want you guys to see the numbers here so you get why Brandon Miller comes up as much as he does for me right here. But Charlotte, we still have no Diabate, no Miles Bridges, obviously Colin Sexton out of town. So let's just take off Bridges and Sexton here. All right. So you can see here, Brandon Miller, 570 possessions. So not the 1,000 possessions we're looking for at 1,000 possessions. Those rates are fully predictable, stable moving forward. But 573, not a bad amount of sample size here. 37% usage, 8% rebound rate, 5 assists per 100. That doesn't matter, but only 56% true shooting. 1.3 DK points a minute for Brandon Miller with having Bridges and Sexton off the court. So basically the big thing that happens when you get these two guys off is that the usage entirely consolidates around LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. Doesn't mean Con Knipple could shoot more today, and that would hurt Brandon Miller for sure. The same thing for LaMelo as well, rather. But for how it looks for Brandon Miller, he's been gunning, and now he gets a better matchup today going against Cleveland than he had yesterday going against Houston, where he did not pay off super well. So Brandon Miller at 8,300. It does feel a little bit spooky to have him above Anthony Edwards. I think that's going to move around a little bit when I get things updated fully for Grant Williams being out officially. But Brandon Miller right now, 44.8 projection, 41 for Stokastic. He's making 28% of my lineups across 100,000 contest sims. That's winning lineups across those sims. Fields at 13%. So I think Brandon Miller a good play today. If they stay competitive versus Cleveland, which is one of these kind of measuring stick kind of tests for Charlotte at this point, I think Brandon Miller is probably a driver of that. So happy to get him above the field, even though my projection at 45 fantasy points, him being higher than Anthony Edwards feels kind of nuts. Him being higher than Harden and Mitchell feels a little bit nuts, but I get how it happens because he's been gunning with the guys that are not available for Charlotte today. Anthony Edwards at number 3. So he is facing a Dallas team that's severely depleted. No flag. Obviously, AD gone, Russell gone, whatever. Not that Russell's been playing well or anything, but all the guys who get shots for the most part gone off the seam. For Anthony Edwards, that could mean that he just beats up on him. It also could mean that he kicks back and relaxes, as sometimes can be the case for Ant. But $9,400 salary. I'm at a 44.2 projection, which is about 2.5 fantasy points lower than Stokastic has him at 46.8. That means I'm still with the field on him, 31%. Fields at 33. But I would say for Ant, I just don't see him being as compelling of a pay-up option today. As Jalen Johnson, as just going more balanced overall. But I'm never the biggest Ant guy in my data unless Randall's out, unless something meaningful is missing from the Timberwolves. So I get how it happens, but Ant to me, not a priority play. And I really feel like for Ant too, like against Dallas, Dallas has been hanging in games despite being, depleted roster. But I just don't see it being the spot that Ant goes nuts necessarily, but I don't mind the spot. All right, we got Jarris Walker here, $6,400 salary, 43-point projection for me right now. Fields at 41. Jarris Walker, again, the only show yesterday talking about my love of Jarris Walker in NBA 2K and how it hasn't impacted my views of him as a player. I always liked him as a fantasy asset. I've talked him up a few times this year that he's had decent games, but he goes out, puts up 50 fantasy points yesterday. That's what Jarris Walker gives you in these kind of matchups facing Washington again here. He contributes rebounds, contributes assists, gets good usage up as well, just shy of about 27% generally when we are in the skeleton crew Pacers teams. So Jarris Walker, don't expect him to put up 50 again here, but that said, a 43 projection at $6,400 salary. He looks rock solid to me. So going back to him, had him in half my lineups yesterday. I thought it'd be more above the field, but wasn't really. But Jarris Walker today getting him in 59% of my winning lineups across 100,000 contest sims. Fields at 30%. Certainly think that he can do a good job today, but you definitely will get point chased a little bit coming off that game he had yesterday, and now it being, an even worse version of the Pacers today, especially if they get even more of their Q-tag guys ruled out later. Keyshawn Jordan's out today. Guessing that's the right. Oh, okay, the Will Riley stuff. But no more Will Riley, please. Let's move on from Will Riley. Apparently, this is what House said, clarifying. Hilarious write-up on FanDuel, I guess, for Will Riley. So check it out if you care about FanDuel that much. As you guys know, I don't. I give you guys my projections for FanDuel. That's the most I can do. James Harden. So James Harden, we talked about yesterday, was looking pretty good before Cleveland had the blowout fully in effect versus Brooklyn. So Harden's minutes got limited. But we talked about it yesterday. Harden's been just deferring so much usage-wise so far. I expect that to come up in a meaningful way just as the season goes on. For right now, though, James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, both pretty much dead even in projection. I have Harden at 42.8, Mitchell at 42.5. They're both eating into each other's projection, but if one of them were to hit a ceiling that you needed to win the tournament today, like it wouldn't be a shocker. So Harden right now, getting him at 13% for the field, Mitchell at 13%. I am higher on James Harden. He's in 20% of my winning lineups across 100,000 contest sims. Mitchell, though, just dead even with the field at 13. So both solid plays. I think they both can win you a tournament again today. But, they're not really players where the price tag is super generous and you're going to cram them into lineups for that. LaMelo Ball, all his car accidents seemingly resulting in his price coming up a little bit on DraftKings at 8,800. That said, 11% owned by the field. I'm at 12. LaMelo, like we saw earlier with Brandon Miller, it's just basically all the shots when you get Bridges off the court, Sexton off the court. It just ends up going everything to LaMelo and to Brandon Miller. So I don't mind LaMelo. Minutes limit still being there on a back-to-back. Not a great thing, but he can produce a lot in that amount of time, and I think you'll be able to afford him pretty easily on the slate because we just don't have the Jokic, we don't have the Luka, we don't have the Wemby kind of player to get to today. So LaMelo at 8,800, playable, but I'd rather go Brandon Miller if I could. Julius Randle, 28% sim ownership right now for me across 100,000 contest sims. Fields at 29%. Not a big stand here, but they're facing Dallas, severely depleted Dallas team, like we've talked about enough times already between Ant and Randle. Obviously, both guys have appreciable ceilings, but because they both are so solid, it's hard to really love either. The ownership, I think, seems more than fair for both, around 30%. I just don't see a lot of advantage to going nuts on Anthony Edwards or Julius Randle, even though I imagine I'll be holding hands with the field or a little bit under, is how it looks for me. We're going to sort by value here, guys. Before I do that, one quick ask, and value is going to get real weird today, so strap in. But please hit that like button. Please subscribe. You guys know the deal here. Your support goes a long way for me because I am just one guy showing you my work every day, gambling on the NBA. Of course, building out the splashplaypodcast.com site has been a labor of love, both for me, guys, and for you guys. Some of them have won $100,000. Some of you have had your best DFS finishes ever, which has been really cool to hear. But no matter what, even if you're just here for free, just join along Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. I'm doing the work as best I can. And you guys hitting the like button, subscribing really does go a long way for me to keep building this up into something useful. And of course, the work doubles up soon with MLB coming up, and I will put my whole ass into that just like I do every day for you guys with NBA. Stokastic as well. Check them out. 15% off the promo code SPLASH over there. And that's any package, weekly, monthly, even yearly, 15% off. So go check it out. Great site, of course, where you're going to get great DFS lineups no matter what. And the guy who won 100K yesterday on DraftKings, Los Stories, I believe is his name. I think he watches this show and me on Stokastic. Tag me in the tweet. He won 100K with Stokastic Sims, and he did put in 150, so you have to keep that in mind. Expectations, keep them in line accordingly. But really, their tools will give you the best lineups possible, especially if you know what you're doing, like a guy like Lo does. I think that's what you get when you get Stokastic. So obviously you can make it simple, factory settings kind of stuff, build good lineups, or put a little more custom control into it and still get good lineups even more so. So check it out, link down below. Then use the promo code SPLASH when you get over there for 15% off. And last but not least, join the actual site I'm showing you here, splashplaypodcast.com, my labor of love. All the data that I've been accumulating for myself over years, now even better with really my AI coding team, my Claude coding team, obsessing about it every day, trying to make it better for you guys, including today, even clean up some bugs, got the Discord function working better for when you guys sign up on there. So that's now good to go if you are a member. But join down below, splashplaypodcast.com. It's cheaper than on YouTube, way cheaper than on Apple because you guys get charged so much VIG through that. So check it out, and really $10 off. That might be more compared to the YouTube Apple pricing because you guys are getting ripped off of that, and I apologize. It's still cheaper than the DFS sites are paying for the most part. But yeah, I'm now trying to make it cheaper for you guys with more going to me as well. So that's, if you want us to make the switch, let me know. And I was actually going to say, if you guys also have any membership left on YouTube and you want to join the splashplaypodcast.com site, I say that, in general, just reach out to me. Happy to give promo codes for whatever amount of time you have left. So that way you're just getting both, because it's much easier to be on the splashplaypodcast.com login as opposed to the YouTube Discord workaround we've been doing. And shout out to the kind chats here, $118. Hey, look, that may not be a lot to some people, but if you're playing quarter and all that, that might mean a lot to you. So I'm glad to hear it. Only put in 6 lineups, came in 32nd in the FanDuel $5. There you go. And that's FanDuel too. And you guys know I hate FanDuel. I don't hate them. I just it's not the site I play on, so it's not my focal point, but glad to hear it. And again, that's always awesome to hear from you guys. So let me know whenever you're having success. Always glad to hear you guys chime in. All right, top values. Sorry, it's a lot of plugging, a lot of catching up on all the chats and all that. But we got Javon Small, number 1. So for Memphis today, we got a tank-off game, them in Utah. Obviously, Utah, we talked about yesterday at length, got fined $500K for pulling guys in the fourth, or not playing guys in the fourth quarter and pulling them from the game, basically. It didn't impact Washington doing the same thing yesterday. Washington didn't have 3 of their starters play in the fourth quarter, but did have Bub Carrington come back in, and one of the other shitty Wizards came back in. So I don't know what these teams are doing at this point. It's hard to get a read because the way that teams are tanking this year, like we talked about a lot, really one of the underlying themes of this show all year is that teams are tanking earlier than ever. They're tanking more aggressively than ever with the way they've approached things. Obviously, Adam Silver making a lot of news lately with how they're going to try to fix that. But I just don't know, Memphis, are they going to try hard? Do they do the same thing that these other teams are doing, start pulling starters late? Does it even matter if they do that? It matters rotationally, but it doesn't matter for the results probably. But Javon Small, I think no matter what, should be insulated. You probably get Cam Spencer starting and then Javon Small coming off the bench, and then Spencer maybe not closing and Javon Small just playing, most of the third quarter, into the fourth quarter. He's been a pretty good producer so far in his career. Javon Small putting up 0.93 DK points per minute on 30% assist rate, 19% usage. Those rates come up a little bit more usage-wise, 24% when you get all the various Memphis Grizzlies that are not available today off the court. I think Javon Small going to be one of your better values on the slate. That said, if Memphis tries really hard and Cam Spencer plays 30 minutes and Javon Small doesn't get as many minutes, things like that can make things look a little bit less good for guys like Javon Small and Omax, who we're going to talk about in a minute. Olivier Maxence Prosper. But for Memphis, they're basically shorthanded. They have 9 guys available today. And there's not a guarantee that all 9 play, even though the data right now assumes they do. So Memphis just so shorthanded playing Utah. Total's not that bad either at 118.5 implied points for Memphis. So you're going to get Grizzlies coming up, and Javon Small's one of them. A 9x value on paper, 54% owned by the field. I'm in 73% of my winning lineups, and my projection pretty much dead even with Stokastic at about 31.5 for Javon Small. Olivier Maxence Prosper, Max, easier to say it that way. Power forward center, 3,500, about a 30-point projection for me. He's another guy putting up about 0.86 DK points per minute, but when you get the various guys out, I'd project him today for about 1.02 DK points per minute. No guarantee for the minutes being there in a huge way, but he does gain appreciable rate upticks. I think in particular, having Santi Aldama off the court gets about 3.5% more usage. So Omax, another guy here at 3,500, much like Javon Small, same price tag, great values on Memphis. And they're going to come up a lot. Kadary Richmond. So Kadary Richmond has played a little bit so far for Washington. And one thing I'll point out, especially if you guys make your own data, all the sites that populate data for the most part have not updated with the post All-Star break games from yesterday. That includes Add More Funds. That includes Basketball Reference. I actually emailed Basketball Reference's support about it because I was like, what the fuck's going on here? But I think there's an NBA API change or something, so they all have to fix that before they can push their stuff, is what it sounds like from them. As a result, I'm missing data from yesterday on the Wizards, and I would like to have it because the sample size is so small for guys like Kadary Richmond and Alondas Williams. But Kadary Richmond so far, not a big sample size of game time, has averaged 2.2 fantasy points per minute. Now, again, we're talking not a big sample size at all. Actually, I'm not going to pull it up now. But for Kadary Richmond, he has shown a flash in a small sample size. And that's one of the things in my data that sort of pops up faster than I would say a Stokastic does, because Stokastic, a lot of sites out there will sort of counterbalance when guys have a small sample size against just what league average is. And they assume that Kadary Richmond is just going to find his depth and become a league average player at some point. For me and my data just takes these guys at face value. I did knock Kadary Richmond's projection down exponentially because he's been producing so well in a short burst, and again, producing in every category, getting some rebounds, attacking the rim, getting some assists, getting a little bit of usage, but definitely can get more. So he and Alondas Williams both coming up a lot here today. You can see Williams down here to 3K salary. I don't think they're priority plays, but I do think they're guys you want to get exposure to because both guys also played over 25 minutes yesterday for Washington, and now we're missing even more guys from the Wizards. So Kadary Richmond, not to me the same caliber value play. In the field won't treat him as such either as Javon Small or Omax. But Kadary Richmond does matter here. And again, my projection at 22 fantasy points, Stokastic has him at 19. It would be a lot higher if I didn't make that work the right way. So for Kadary Richmond, I think that he's a player I will just say out loud, he's going to be in a small percentage of my lineups today, even if the field doesn't play him at all, because he's flashing something interesting here. He's put up per 100 possessions. Again, very small sample size, 40 points per 100 possessions, 16 rebounds, 8 assists. He's put up a point guard who stat pads kind of numbers. So I don't want to be blind to that. And that's why I'm talking a lot about a guy whose name you probably haven't heard until today. I can't use the Stokastic popcorn machine. It's not the same for stats. I pull in stats from different sources. Their popcorn machine, their thing does update, actually. They're the one site I think that has the NBA stuff working correctly post All-Star break. But the popcorn machine, it's not what I'm looking for. I need to get the data to pull in for the actual projections. So hopefully Basketball Reference will update before tonight. If not, I feel okay about the numbers, but I'd feel better if I had that one more game of sample size for the Washington guys. Jalen Wells at 4,500, another top value here, 30.7 projection for me. Stokastic has him for 27.3, 12% owned by the field. I have him about 22%. For Jalen Wells, one of those guys I've actively talked about before. I don't really love him. When my data says to play him, I play him. That's sort of how it goes. And for Jalen Wells, he actually has hit in those situations for me before. So we'll want to keep a more open mind as a guy that does stat pad a little bit more when Memphis is shorthanded. But Jalen Wells today, I'd have it about 1.06 DK points per minute. He gets a pretty good usage uptick, rebound uptick, assist uptick for the various Grizzlies not being on the court today. So Jalen Wells, I think of rock solid play at 4,500. And in some respects, if you were to tell me that Jalen Wells made a winning lineup at 12% owned, and then Javon Small, Omax didn't make it. That's kind of way you could maybe get some leverage on the lesser value plays, even though I'm still going to play a lot of small. I'll still play a good amount of Omax no matter what. But I think Jalen Wells is going to be underrepresented at 12% owned. Today feels like stars and compost heap. Sure. I mean, I think it's definitely not the most beautiful slate in the world, but I like the garbage slates a little bit. I think the tough part is that the minutes are just always hard to project. And, for me in particular, I love what Stokastic does, obviously, and giving me kind of a market read always. I've questioned the minutes a little bit in some spots lately, and I think that's something for me as a control freak about my data. I wish that were a little bit tighter, but it's hard to kind of project stuff, especially if for a site that wants to find that middle outcome as best they can, because that's why they're so successful. The rotations have just been weird across the NBA, and it's really hard this time of year to dig into it. So something to be mindful of that I'm trying to be mindful of in my own process, but not enough that I'm changing the minutes because I still trust Stokastic more than I trust myself on that front. Jarris Walker, 20, what was I saying here? 37.9 minute projection from Stokastic. We talked about him already. Played, put up 50 fantasy points yesterday. I think for Jarris Walker, another strong play again today. That said, the price tags come up, and he just went for 50 yesterday, so he's going to be on the radar. But he contributes in every category. He's cheap, and the Pacers might be down even more guys than are currently represented in the data. So Jarris Walker, rock solid play. Back to back, they're going to keep playing him because he's young enough. Alondas Williams, kind of talked about already through the prism of Kadary Richmond. Another guy that last year had a really good sample size, a really small sample size, rather, of good play. This year, he played yesterday, hasn't played besides that. So I need to get his numbers in from this year to hopefully flatten him out a little bit more. But I knocked his rates down enough to get him at a 20-point projection. Stokastic has him at 16.3. Alondas Williams, much like Kadary Richmond, another guy I'm getting at about 5%, 6% ownership. He's minimum salary. He played 25 plus minutes yesterday. Again, not a fun play, and it frankly feels a little bit early to be playing guys like Kadary Richmond and Alondas Williams, but Washington's just not playing their guys in a real way. Like even Bub Carrington, like normally you would go, let's play Bub Carrington 40 minutes. Let's see what he could do out there. They're not even doing that. They're playing Bub like 30. So, and then, yesterday, Keyshawn George, he's banged up allegedly today, played 19 minutes yesterday. Like they're just not willing to play their guys. So that's why your Alondas Williams tier of players come up a little bit more than I think they should. Brandon Williams, more legitimate Williams here, has been a monster for the Mavericks when you have court time without Cooper Flagg, without AD, without D'Angelo Russell, putting up 1.1 DK points a minute without all those guys that are not available today or not on the team anymore. Fields at 40% ownership. I'm at 45. My projection's also about 1.5 points higher. I don't love the matchup versus Minnesota on paper, but I think really the usage should flow through Brandon Williams' hands, assist upside as well. He's a player that when Dallas is shorthanded to get him a lot, I would say at a 5K salary, 5,100, it's a little bit too cheap for sure. Feels like a lot to have of a guy that's not a super value like other guys in the slate. And it wouldn't shock me if you saw at least one of Javon Small, Kadary Richmond, Alondas Williams, Jeremiah Fears even put up a score that's as good as Brandon Williams. So that's the issue I have with him. But, in terms of like a floor outcome, ceiling outcome being there as well, I really have no issue with Brandon Williams at that ownership. And Jeremiah Fears, last of our top values here, 15.5% owned. I'm at 24. The minutes seem to be there a little bit more lately with the Pelicans getting shorthanded, even more so Trey Murphy being out. But also Alvarado being gone has cleared the pathway for him a little bit more. Still no guarantee he plays the minutes. They could easily play. They signed Bryce McGovern to a 3-year deal. Like they could play wings more instead of Jeremiah Fears if they want. But right now, Fears getting 28.7 minutes in Stokastic data. It gives me about a 31.9 projection, and Stokastic has about 29.4. And his rates get a little bit of a bump as well for no Trey Murphy. All right, guys, we're going to go game by game. Before I do that, you guys know the deal here. It means a lot if you guys hit that like button and subscribe. Again, I'm just one guy showing you my gambling across the NBA every single day, Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. I do it because I love this, but also it is a lot of work, so it means a lot when you guys support my goals here. We've been getting over 2K views on every video for about a week now, obviously before the All-Star break as well. So I'd love to keep doing that, and a big way I'm able to keep doing that is you guys smashing that like button, especially as, the views go up and down on a Friday. So show some love, hit that like button and subscribe, and strap in here if you want to get good NBA quality data Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. Of course, Stokastic, another great way to get yourself great lineups in DFS, or even their prop betting tool can do some great things for you. All that's 15% off and use the promo code SPLASH over there. So go over, check it out. Link down below if you want to go check out the menu of options. Use the promo code SPLASH on any weekly, monthly, even yearly package and get 15% off right now. NBA, any sport you want, even their all sport stuff. It's all 15% off with the promo code SPLASH. And last but not least, my own site here, the thing that you're seeing on screen throughout most of the video, splashplaypodcast.com. Get it for yourself. Previously, memberships were only going through YouTube, but now you can get it cheaper buying through splashplaypodcast.com. So check it out. Squirt Squad tier, VIP tier, both of those available. And all the things you see on screen here, including my matchup screen, the projection matrix, which I'll take off the stochastic projection so you can see it a little better here. These are all part of the Squirt Squad tier, VIP tier. You get my projections exportable with some of the sim data available as well. Simulation data also over here, including how often guys score 30, 40, 50, 60 across 100,000 contest sims. More sims you'll get anywhere else. Figured out a way to do it, make it fast because I'm not doing it for a million customers at once. CSV export here as well for Stokastic sims if you want to use my projections on there to make yourself a little bit more unique. So lots of good stuff when you remember here, Squirt Squad or VIP. So check it out. Join at splashplaypodcast.com and support the show. All right. Today's matchups here, game-by-game breakdown. We got Cleveland and Charlotte, 231.5 combined points. Cleveland on their side, we talked about a little bit. Now, let me get the stochastic numbers back on here. Give myself a little toggle, so I don't have to show them always if I want to show you guys like the projection matrix and you get the view. This is the view you would normally get, but for me as an admin, I get this one with stochastic data on it. But for Cleveland right now, like we talked about, James Harden, I expect to keep getting better as the season goes on. So far, been deferring a lot usage-wise in this stint in Cleveland. Think that as time goes on, Donovan Mitchell will start to chuck a little bit less. Harden will get that back. We saw it start to come to fruition a little bit yesterday, but then Brooklyn got blown out, so they didn't get there. But James Harden, 20% owned right, or 20% sim representation right now for me. Across 100,000 contest sims, he makes a winning lineup that much of the time. Fields at 13%. So I would say for me, James Harden a little bit undervalued. And frankly, these guys should be pretty fresh for a back-to-back, given the fact that there wasn't a lot of fourth quarter run for either. Donovan Mitchell fields at 13%. I'm cool being with it. Feels like on this slate where you just don't have a lot of pay-up options, you want to have some exposure to your ceiling guys because these guys can put up the scores you need to win a slate. Harden and Mitchell, not great projection plays, Mitchell in particular, but they do have ceilings that not a lot of other players on the slate have. Charlotte on their side, Brandon Miller's the big stand here. Like we talked about, just does come up in a meaningful way with that usage rate he's put up with Miles Bridges and Colin Sexton off the court. Getting him in 28% of my lineups, Fields at 13, so about a 2x the field stand for me right now on Brandon Miller. LaMelo Ball, 11% owned by the field. I have him at 12. Do think the usage opportunity is going to be there from in a big way, but the minutes not going to get as high as Brandon Miller should. Matchup, again, we're hoping they can keep it competitive like they did, mostly versus Houston yesterday. Would say that for LaMelo here. Price tag's a little bit rich for me, and I prefer Brandon Miller, but I think he's still a play you can get to because of the fact you'll have the money to spend and not a lot of pay-up options you want to go to. Utah, Memphis. On Utah's side, you're not going to get a lot. We did have a downgrade for Lowry Markkanen. Keontae George is already out for the game. But in this spot, Jazz getting 117 implied points, one of the better team totals on the slate. That does matter a bit. If Markkanen is out, you'll get, I'd presume you get more Svi. Though at this point it might be more Conchar. More usage for Ace Bailey and Filipowski. I don't know if anybody's going to look like amazingly better, but I think Sensabaugh would look better, at least more playable at 5,700. Collier, I don't know if he gets impacted a ton by Markkanen being out, but more possessions probably makes his projection come up. I think that all of Utah would look slightly better, but you don't get a massive winner here unless somebody like Blake Hinson started, and then he's basically free getting starter level run. For Utah, you got to watch out, though, because they can do weird things. Right now, they have enough guys out, but Markkanen being out does matter. Memphis on their side, they're your most important team on the slate right now. You got Javon Small coming up the most. Fields at 54%. I'm getting 73. The GG Jackson number is not correct because the name structure. Hold on one second. Let me see if I could find him on a different tab here. Yeah, GG Jackson's at 39% sim ownership for me. Fields at 33, so not as big of a stand as these guys. But Javon Small's the big stand. I'm getting 73% of my winning lineups with him. Fields at 54. Omax, getting him in 63% of my winning lineups. Fields at 33. Big stand on Omax. Cam Spencer makes 38% of my lineups. Fields at 46. Does feel like Cam Spencer might be at risk to lose minutes late in the game. But that said, I don't know that he really plays winning basketball, so he's probably your lever against Javon Small as your chalk value play to some extent. And frankly, I think you can play them both together. Jalen Wells, we talked about, nice value at 4,500 in small forward position. That's always pretty tough. Getting him at 22% of my lineups. And then G.G. Jackson, again, shown a 0 here, but he's actually at about 39% sim exposure for me. Grizzlies, most important team on the slate. We need to know who's starting. That's the key first thing to know. Besides that, though, you're going to play some Grizzlies no matter what. And you got to keep in mind, too, like, even though the teams don't want to win, the players are going to play hard. They're playing for their next contracts and all that. So I would not run away from Memphis like sometimes I know people in chat, like, freak out about. We got in this game, Pacers-Wizards, 229.5 combined total. Not the best total, especially for two teams that do mostly suck defensively. The big play, though, for Indiana, once again, is Jarris Walker. Had the big stand on him yesterday. Same thing again here. $6,400 salary seems too cheap to me. And in Stokastic's data, Fields at 30%. I'm at 59%. Quentin Jackson, Fields at 49%. I'm only getting 14%. At 4,600, the price tag doesn't seem to be there quite as much. That said, I feel like things are going to move around a lot as I pull in the various updates as the day goes on. So don't hold me to my Quentin Jackson stand. It might change a little bit, but just don't see the rate impact being quite as good for him as some other guys here at that price tag. Micah Potter, $4,400 salary, excuse me, popped up yesterday after the show. I actually shout out to our guy Isaac, who asked about Micah Potter, and I was like, Stokastic's not giving him the minutes. They lightly bumped his minutes. I think in particular, some more guys got ruled out, and then Potter ended up being just a dead average, not great play. For Potter, though, he does seemingly find his way into enough minutes, and if he plays well, he gets more. Fields at 45%. I don't think I need to have that big of a stand on him today. That said, by the time the slate locked yesterday, I got him a ton. So Micah Potter is one of those guys where if we get McConnell back out, if we get Cam Jones out, that won't help out Potter a ton, but it will increase his minutes load because they just have less bodies to play. Yeah, Potter could change a lot here. He's still a 5.8x value for me. My projection's higher than Stokastic, but I'm getting other guys as better values right now. And then Kobe Brown, Fields at 18%. I'm getting 11. He's not a priority pacer for me, but at 4,300, small forward, he's playable. There's a lot of playable, shitty guys in the slate, and he is one of them. Wizards here. Nothing coming up in a major way. Nobody playing real minutes in Stokastic's data. In fact, they have nobody projected for over 25 minutes. Yesterday, we did see Alondas Williams and Kadari Richmond play over 25 minutes on a back-to-back. I feel like the chance of that happening again is not super low. That said, for Alondas Williams, getting only 6% of my lineups, he's barely getting played by the field. Kadari Richmond gets into 5.5% of my lineups. He's also being played barely by the field. These are the two guys I will highlight here. Vucevic, Stokastic is bumped down to 14 minutes. Anthony Gill played all the minutes yesterday that Vucevic didn't play. And Anthony Gill also played when seemingly Vucevic was playing too well. So it's a bit of a mess. You can just scroll back and see it. I just talked about it. You can see what the sim number is, and that's what the exposure would be. But for how it looks for Washington right now, nothing really coming up in a meaningful way. Vucevic, priced too expensively. If you were to play 30 minutes, he'd be a fantastic play. With a 14-minute projection, you can't go there. And then the fact that he played well yesterday and they benched him, also not great. And it's a back-to-back, and he was not healthy for a little bit. So Washington mostly a mess, but Alondas Williams, Kadari Richmond, if one of them makes a winning lineup, just come back and go, hey, that was, you know what? You didn't give a full-throated stand on that, but that ended up being right. And I'll go, thank you. That's correct. We just did that game, Squeak. You can scroll backwards. Half the NBA is turning into the G League. I don't mind the NBA turning into the G League. I just don't like the shortened rotations things. Like, to me, the thing is, if you're going to play young players, just play them a lot. Play them a bunch of minutes so we can see what they are. I hate having to guess small sample size guy over and over again. In a couple of weeks, we'll have a good read on these various players a little bit better. But like, it's just, I don't know. It's like, it's half measure stuff over and over again. It's like, if you're going to let teams tank, then they should tank. Just let's not play Keyshawn George-Hill. Let him go to fucking Cabo for a couple months and just play all your shitty guys. Play Trey Johnson, but then play Trey Johnson at least. Like, why are they not playing Trey Johnson? I don't know. Tanking to me is just stupid. Like, play your young guys. Don't play your shittiest guys. That should be the way it goes. Miami, Atlanta, 243.5 combined points here. Miami, nothing coming up at all, so we could save some time. Bam Adebayo, stupid expensive at 9,200. Everybody else, 5% owned max, it seems like. Getting Tyler Hero back in just doesn't help out anybody. Hero's probably motivated to be better. Seemingly had some social media kind of posts to rally himself a little bit after the shitty start he's had so far. He just needs to get more shots up and create a little bit more. And I think it's hard to do when you have all the guys around him kind of creating their own shots. So I don't know if there's like a solve for Hero here, but if he does just shoot more, maybe he can pay off at his comeback game. 1 year of NBA scored. Appreciate that. It was Robert Griff III, one of my luminaries here, so I'm going to give him too many flowers for that. And I didn't see any chat from you, but okay. You're all good by my book, Tiff. Atlanta, 120 implied points. Jalen Johnson coming up a lot for the field, 62% owned. I think that's going to come down, but you just have nowhere to spend the money today and a ton of value. So Jalen Johnson, hard to critique it. That said, it does spook me a little bit that Jalen Johnson always pops up big in my data. And today I'm about 2.5 fantasy points lower. That said, for Jalen Johnson, 62% owned by the field. I got him at 43. He's definitely not a player I'm fading in a real way. He should probably be in about half your lineups if the field's going to be at 60% plus. But I think there's other constructions to get to, in particular balanced builds. I don't mind quite that much. If you're Vucevic, you'd be frustrated. Yeah, I mean, because he's playing for his future, and it's not like he's a key part of the Wizards' plans. Like, they've got Sar, they've got AD now. So it sucks, but I think, for these guys too, like, he showed enough, and it's limited court time, that if he's going to get another deal, he can. But, that's the difference between him getting another job and him getting like a Christian Wood kind of deal. Because like, he's that kind of producer. Like yesterday too, he got steals and blocks, like, but he only played like 20 minutes, not even. So it's stupid. Dallas at Minnesota, 239.5 implied points here, combined points here. Brandon Williams, the only big stand, putting up 1.1 DK points per minute with all the various Mavs unavailable. Marvin Bagley is about a 5.8x value for me. We just don't need him at 4,400 and center eligible, but not a bad value as a guy that's been playing worse than the Mavs so far, but can play up a little bit better at his 1.1 fantasy point per minute pace so far all year. Najee Marshall has a ceiling, 6,300 though, shooting guard, small forward. Not trying to load up on him. But, they're down enough usage guys. Najee does get shots up in those situations, so I don't mind him. Yeah, Dallas to me, kind of Brandon Williams or bust, but Najee, PJ Washington, there's a ceiling there with their minutes. They just don't really do enough to feel great about it projection-wise. Minnesota, you're getting Randall and Edwards because you can afford them. They're not great plays. Neither guy above a 5x value for me. That's up. They're a little bit higher in Stokastic's data, so I don't mind them. They're just not priorities. Rudy Gobert going against a Dallas team that kind of sucks. 10% sim ownership for me. Fields at 8%. Think he looks pretty good at 6,400, but not a priority play or anything like that. Rudy Gobert though against bad teams. Do you feel like that's when he cleans up the most? Gets a few more easy shots at the rim, a few more blocks, a few more rebounds, higher potential for a double-double. So this kind of spot for Rudy Gobert, I don't mind. And if he comes up more than 8% for me when I do put in my final lineups, great. Data must have imported incorrectly here. Sorry, guys. Hold on. It's not incorrect in my sheet, but sometimes when it scans things, it pulls it in wrong. So let me just try to re-upload this. They have a higher projection on Ant or Harden. I've got Ant at 44.2. Harden at 42.8. So would favor Ant. All right, that's all. Let's see. Hopefully this made this fix. There we go. Wait, no. What the fuck? All right, I got to fix this on the back end. We're now missing games. I know this is happening on a really big slate, so it's something with the parsing here. The data's correct on the projections, but not correct on the game-by-game view. So it's my bad, but we can't see Milwaukee Pelicans right now or Brooklyn OKC. They got merged into one game. Let me see what the night slate looks like. Sorry, guys. I'll try to fix this after the show. All right. Well, night slate's correct. I mean, Brooklyn's a mess anyway. I am going to blame Claude. It is my AI coder Claude that did a bad job, and I will browbeat him after the show. Brooklyn before the show ruled out Claxton and also Zaire Williams, but they didn't rule out, I don't believe, at least I didn't see it before we started the stream, didn't rule out MPJ and didn't rule out Igor Diomin. So frankly, Brooklyn looking at them might not be helpful right now. The only Zaire and Claxton ruled out so far. So Brooklyn we can't really talk about. OKC, there's really nobody of note either for me. I hate Chet Holmgren always. Milwaukee, KPJ matters on the slate. And New Orleans, we talked about Fears looking pretty good. Derek Queen, Zion looking pretty good. Those are the games that we're not talking about here, where those guys might matter on the slate. But for the most part, the two late games kind of don't have a whole lot, so we'll skip past it. Look at my simulation data real fast, so we'll hop over to Stokastic. And again, guys, check out the sim products on the VIP tier of things if you want. You can see this very screen here, which includes the sim win rates across 100,000 contest sims. That includes Javon Small, 73% sim rate right now. Again, a rock solid play at 3,500, though if Cam Spencer does play well, he might keep Javon Small at bay, though in a tanking situation, you probably still get Javon Small no matter what to a good amount. Omax, 63% across 100,000 contest sims, winning lineups. Jarris Walker, 59%. Brandon Williams and Jalen Johnson right behind. The guys who score 30 plus the most, Jalen Johnson, Anthony Edwards, Brandon Miller, 97% of the time or more, they all do that. Julius Randle, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, same thing. 40 plus the most is going to be Jalen Johnson. He does that 91% of the time. Then we're falling off the cliff. Anthony Edwards does it 75% of the time. Brandon Miller, 70. So that's why you're getting Jalen Johnson a lot across the field's lineups, it looks like. 50 plus the most, Jalen Johnson does that 58% of the time. Anthony Edwards, 36%. Brandon Miller, 28. 60 plus, Jalen Johnson, Anthony Edwards, and Jarris Walker. Probably a really high standard deviation on him would be my guess. But he does it 8% of the time, 60 plus. 5X, Omax, 100% of the time. Javon Small, 100% of the time. Kadari Richmond, 96% of the time. Alondas Williams, 95% of the time. The first two, at the very least, probably mean it's going to be a high-scoring slate. Guys, 6X the most. Omax, Javon Small, Kadari Richmond, Jalen Wells, and Alondas Williams. All right. It's a point discount on DK for Brandon Miller. I mean, yeah, if you're going to trust my data, he fucking comes up huge. I mean, if nothing else, he's going to get shots up. That usage rate can't get that high without it being an appreciable change in opportunity for him. So, yeah, I would bet Brandon Miller overs today on points. All right, let's go over to Stokastic. Run their sim now, guys. Again, apologies for the not full game-by-game view here, but I'd rather disclose that it's not working correctly and just, get it right, rather than show you guys something that's not going to be useful and waste my time and yours. But let's go to Stokastic now. We'll build our 5,000 lines with their data. Looks like it just updated at 2:09 p.m. So after the stream ends, I'll update and I'll try to fix that, whatever bug's going on. Guys, show some love if you can. Hit that like button, subscribe. I have to yell at my employees after the video. I don't yell at my AI, though, for what it's worth. I do try to be kind to the AI. But that said, I do the best I can to give you guys more and more every day, to give you guys more access, more data, more things that I think will actually add value without adding too much bloat to the process. And that's what I do here Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. So please show some love if you can. Reward the faith I show you guys by showing up every day, by hitting that like button and subscribing down below. Of course, check out Stokastic. Again, this tool I'm about to show you guys on screen, get it for 15% off with the promo code SPLASH over there. So just click the link, see all of your options, get 15% off any of them, any length, any type of package, 15% off over at Stokastic with the promo code SPLASH, SPLASH. And last but not least, splashplaypodcast.com. That's my site. Go over there right now. It's cheaper than buying through YouTube or through Apple. Shout out to all you guys that did do that, but now I'm trying to get costs down for both you and for me. So check it out over at splashplaypodcast.com. The matchup screen, which will be again fixed after the show, it still mostly works though. The projection matrix, that's part of the Squirt Squad tier. My actual projections, exportable, the Stokastic stuff, that's on the VIP tier. But check it out, join the site, and shout out to all you guys that have joined as well. Been getting a lot of you guys lately in the picture, and a lot of you guys having good results lately, as the chat talked about earlier. What question? Just paste it again, Tiffany. What are you talking about? We got top 5. I love you, Tiff, but please make it easy on me. Cam Spencer, Jeremiah Fears, Jarris Walker, top ROI lineup. Zion Williamson getting a boost for no Trey Murphy. Danny Wolf makes this one. So they're still assuming, I guess, that MPJ is out. Yeah, they have MPJ out, even though he's not on the injury report. I would assume he doesn't play the back-to-back, but until he's actually out, I think you assume he's in. But anyway, Danny Wolf makes this lineup. Javon Small makes it our top value. Brandon Miller makes it. And Kevin Porter Jr. makes it. Number 2, Javon Small, Cam Spencer. Kobe Brown makes this one. Jalen Johnson is in this one. Omax at center. It's a weird center. James Harden, Danny Wolf, Kevin Porter Jr. Really a shitty center slate with Danny Wolf and Omax coming up a lot up top. Number 3, Javon Small, Cam Spencer, Jarris Walker, Jalen Johnson, Omax again, Anthony Edwards, Danny Wolf again, Brandon Williams. Number 4, Javon Small, Cam Spencer, Brandon Miller, Jalen Johnson, Omax, Kevin Porter Jr., Danny Wolf, Brandon Williams. And number 5, Brandon Williams, Anthony Edwards, Kobe Brown, Jarris Walker, Omax, Jeremiah Fears, Jalen Johnson, and Danny Wolf. It's a lot of Danny Wolf that I was not emotionally prepared to see. He does get a decent rate uptick for no MPJ, but I don't have MPJ in my data. They must have given Danny Wolf more minutes, I guess. Because previously in the last run of data Stokastic had, they only gave him 25.7 minutes. And that gives him about a 27.5 projection for me, but at his salary, he's almost 6K. Like, you got to get more than that. Memphis right now is 9-man, I think. Omax is more than 2 games, though. I think he had like 15 before the All-Star break. They're trying to parse him out or meet him out, so I guess he could get ruled out, but they already gave out the injury report, so everybody who's out is pretty much already marked out. Let's sort by ROI here. Danny Wolf, 39% ROI at $5,800 salary. It's a lot of Danny Wolf. I got to see what it's going to change to my data, too, because they must have given him more minutes. That's the only thing I could think of. Kobe Brown, Bryce Sensabaugh right behind him. Jarris Walker, Javon Small run out the top 5 ROI guys. Then Anthony Edwards and Omax. Highest exposed players, Javon Small makes 89% of Stokastic's top 150 lineups. Fields at 64%. Pretty big stand on Javon Small, who does seem like right now your best value on the slate. Jarris Walker, 77% exposure across the top 150. Fields at 51. Jarris Walker, really do think the field's going to own him a lot. And I wonder if you were like 60% owned, would that make Stokastic's exposure come down a little bit? But I love Jarris Walker. He's one of my guys, so I'll be back there again today. Omax, Fields at 47%. You're getting 65. Big stand on Omax. He's your preferred center amongst a lot of those top ROI lineups, as we just saw. Jalen Johnson, 63% exposure. Fields at 56. So a pro stand on Jalen Johnson here. And Anthony Edwards, 46% exposure. Fields at 31. So that's the chosen way to spend some of your money besides Jalen Johnson, it looks like. And you're probably getting some lineups with Jalen Johnson and Ant together, I'd presume. Your highest leverage plays. Danny Wolf, 28% leverage. He's only 2.4% played by the field. Stokastic has him at 30. Something's off about this data. Like if he projects that well for Stokastic, then he shouldn't be 2.4% owned. Got to think that the Wolf number comes down a little bit, but if he's in a third of lineups, I don't think that's crazy. Assuming that MPJ doesn't play. Jarris Walker, 25.8% leverage here. He's making 77% of lineups. Javon Small, 24% leverage on him. Not a surprise to what we saw. Kobe Brown, 20% leverage on him. He's in 44% of lineups in the fields at 24. I do not love Kobe Brown. He's got opportunity, though. You're missing Neesmith, and you might be down even more guys if you get McConnell and Cam Jones out. But Kobe Brown just not really soaking up any usage in any real way. And then Omax, 17% leverage on him. Again, not a surprise. Zion just behind too, 15% leverage. Positive. Jalen Wells, you're fading him the most. I disagree. I just feel like if you're going to play Grizzlies, Jalen Wells is one of those Grizzlies. $4,500 salary, negative 13% leverage on him. I think he's like a 25% play, but Stokastic does not agree. Brandon Williams, negative 13% leverage on him. I will also be up on Brandon Williams. They're only giving you 25% exposure across 150 lineups. Julius Randle, negative 11% leverage on him. So Stokastic in favor of Ant against Julius Randle, it seems. Derek Queen, negative 10% leverage. He's only a 14% play for them. The field's at 24. And Sadiq Bey, negative 9% leverage on him. He's only making 2% of lineups. He will get a bit of an uptick in opportunity with no Trey Murphy, but it's $6,800. That is a tough price tag for Sadiq Bey. All right, let's do a hand build here. I'm not sure how this is going to go because Stokastic seemingly has kind of changed some of their guys in a way that I don't know if I'm going to view them the same. Let's do the best we can. Let me pull up my projection matrix over here. Always makes it easier for the hand builders out there, which I know I say a lot, but I really do think that tool is like the one that if you guys are going to pay for anything, if you're a hand builder, the projection matrix is the one you think you need to get first and foremost in the Squirt Squad tier. All right, my sim highest exposure point guard would be Javon Small. So we're going to be in agreement on Stokastic or with Stokastic on that one. Small first guy in, and he's only point guard, so we can't put him anywhere else. Brandon Williams would make it for me at shooting guard. Stokastic was under the field on him, but he's still popping in my data. My projection's about 2.5 fantasy points higher than Stokastic's, though. Small forward for me would be Jarris Walker, G.G. Jackson, Brandon Miller. Let's go Jarris Walker. Again, don't think it's a guarantee he goes for 50 again, and I do worry about him driving up the ownership because of that. But he's just a great producer facing Washington again on the back-to-back. Hard for me to critique it too much. Olivier Maxence Prosper. Right now he's in the data. We're assuming he goes. He looks like a good value at power forward. Center, if we don't play Omax there, I think for me is Derek Queen. He makes winning lines for me about 35% of the time. Guard. Cam Spencer, KPJ. I'm going to go Cam Spencer at guard and hope that Cam Spencer and Javon Small don't cannibalize each other too much. Brandon Miller is going to be my forward here. And then we're going to play Jalen Johnson and leave 1,200 on the table? That doesn't feel good. Lord small forward. I mean, I got Miller in. All right, 1,200 left on the table. Probably have to move this around a little. Negative 10% ROI, and it never wins. This lineup, it's impossible for this lineup to win. You playing Salon with Grant Williams out? Not really. It might be an okay value play, but not something that's going to help out that much. Sorry, I meant to switch tabs. This is the one thing I always forget every single stream is to switch tabs to the single lineup sim. But our team here of Javon Small, Brandon Williams, Jarris Walker, Omax, Derek Queen, Jalen Johnson, not working out. Let's take out Derek Queen, Cam Spencer, and Brandon Miller, and let's let it complete the lineup for us. It goes Filipowski, Cam Spencer, Jalen Johnson. So just went Filipowski instead. So spending a little bit more money at center. All right, 76.5%. That's good. 76.5% ROI, 0.3% win rate for this team with Javon Small, Brandon Williams, Jarris Walker, Olivier Maxence Prosper, Filipowski, Cam Spencer, Brandon Miller, and Jalen Johnson. I like that team. Filipowski, definitely one of those guys I'm not stoked about if Markkanen is in, but he'll play a lot because Nurkic isn't going to play, so I get it. All right, guys, I'm going to give you guys my splash plays for the day before we close things out. But before I do that, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. One more ask here. It means a lot for me to keep fighting the good fight against the YouTube algorithm for you guys to hit that like button and subscribe. You guys have been doing that in a major way lately, so please just keep doing it as much as you have. So hit that like button and subscribe, and hopefully the channel will keep growing in kind here as I put in all of my effort as much as I possibly can Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. Of course, check out Stokastic too. All the tools I just showed you guys on screen. Get them for yourself 15% off with that promo code SPLASH. So a good deal over there when you use that promo code. You can check it out. All the data, weekly, monthly, yearly, any sport as well. 15% off with the promo code SPLASH. And last but not least, join splashplaypodcast.com. All the stuff I show you here on screen that's not Stokastic, I made it myself. And sometimes that means that the thing isn't working perfectly for the fucking gigantic slates, but I do fix things. I do obsess over this. Whenever you guys tell me things that can make things better, I try to put them in and make it work for you guys. And that's what we're doing at splashplaypodcast.com. All my data across the NBA, soon across the MLB, NFL as well. There's stuff right now for best ball if you're doing that stuff. There's going to be even more coming up for that. So really, I think it's the best deal, and I'll say the best deal in gambling right now is these sites because I'm charging you a lot less for NBA and MLB and NFL under one roof. So check it out over at splashplaypodcast.com and do that if you can. You can sign up through YouTube if you want. If it's easier, follow your heart, but it's cheaper for you and more money comes to me if you join through my site. So, do whatever you want, but I think one makes more sense than the other probably at this point. All right, splash plays of the day. Javon Small's got to be one. Omax, again, assuming that he plays, I think it's a fair point to say, maybe they don't play him. But on this kind of situation where you're already shorthanded, I presume Omax plays. He'd be another one. Jarris Walker has to be one. If the field's only going to play him at 30%, he'll be in at least half my lineups for sure. I don't think Jalen Johnson's a splash play today because I just don't see being as high in the field. But frankly, he's going to pop up a lot in lineups because, where else do you spend the money? But he'll be in half my lineups, I think, today would be my guess. And those are the main ones. I mean, there's a lot of guys I don't mind. And I'll say, too, one of those value Washington guys, I'm going to have him above the field, not going to go nuts on it. But Alondas Williams, Kadari Richmond, I think one of those guys hitting today and being a value you need, maybe in addition to Javon Small or in lieu of him, I think is possible. That's on my radar as a splash play today. So keep your eyes peeled, guys. I will be on the Stokastic Live Before Lock show today as well. I'll also be on that tomorrow. So my splash play data does run Monday to Saturday. So keep that in mind if you want to see a video for me, because I don't usually do one on here on Saturdays. But stay tuned for that stuff coming up. So NBA today on Live Before Lock on Stokastic. Tomorrow, Live Before Lock on Stokastic. This video right now, and more coming up next week, guys. So shout out to all you guys for being here. Make sure to gamble responsibly, even though it is always money time on this channel. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully we'll get even more in stride next week once the team stabilize a little bit after All-Star break. But it's going to be a fun back half of the NBA season, no matter how much work these teams make it for us to dig through every day. And I'll be here for you guys. Hopefully you'll be here for me too. So have a good weekend, guys. See you hopefully tonight on Stokastic Live Before Lock with my good friend Josh Engelman. And this is how I feel about you guys. You thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. For the longest time, I thought this GIF was from a sketch. And no, that was actually a guy in court. He tried to pick up a cop who was an undercover prostitute or something. Or she's a undercover prostitute who's a cop. Probably a better way to say that. And that's an actual GIF. So So fun things to learn. That's our civic process there in motion. But shout out to all you guys here. Have a good weekend. See you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye-bye.